fiveanddimeeaston.com. They have their website officially up. You can shop most of their stuff online. They also have Fucked. They have Fucked in the store. I think they're the only one allowed to sell Fucked out of their store. It's 484-544-4719. That's at Five and Dime Easton on social media. These guys are great. I mean, they're killing it. It's the best skate shop, in my opinion, in the area. They have a lot of cool stuff there. Both the owners are rad. I stop in when I can. They're open Monday through Friday, 11 to 7, Saturday, 10 to 7, and Sunday, 11 to 5. There is someone always there to help you out with your needs. You can check their inventory off the website. You can check out some videos they got on there, and they're doing some cool things. Their social media is awesome. They support a lot of local skaters in the area, and they're growing. I'm excited to be a part of them growing. I'm excited to help them out. They're helping me out. It's a good relationship, and I push Five and Dime Easton because they're the best skate shop in the area. Check them out. BTG Blasting. My man, Pat Cunningham, offering you pressure washing, disinfecting, acid washing, and rust removal. It is a high pressure washing business, bringing your stuff back to glory. He does anything from houses all the way to having him come into the studio. He comes down to the studio on a schedule and he disinfects the studio, and we are certifiably clean, and it just covers all the bases. So with the things that are going on now, you're going to need somebody like this. He's got a sticker out front. I am certifiably clean down here. He also offers free estimates on all your needs. He can do corporate and at home. You can reach him at 484-241-1711 and btgblasting@gmail.com. He just started this business and it is taking off. I'm super excited for him, and I'm super excited that he's a sponsor of the show. And you can check out BTG Blasting on social media for all of your pressure washing, disinfecting, acid wash, and rust removal needs. It's high pressure washing, bringing your stuff back to glory. He offers many things, and you need to check him out. Eric K. Dowdle, defense attorney. We had him on the show, and what crazy stories this guy's had. He's helped a ton of people over the years. And if you're looking for help, he is your guy. You can contact them at 610-882-3000, and it's ekdefense.com. Do you have a pending court case? Do you have a court appearance and need a defense lawyer? Do you need proper representation? Felony, misdemeanor, drug offense, assault, homicide, DUI, traffic violation, appeals. Reach out to Eric. Check out the podcast we did with him as well. It has his whole story on there. If you need help, Eric is here to help you. He sponsors the show. We appreciate it. He's going to be doing a monthly thing with us. Eric will be a part of the family now. Thank you for sponsoring. I don't even know what episode this is. Never Again Radio. Episode 126.
Sure. Oh,
and that
hurt.
And I don't even think that is needed anymore because of the switcher.
No,
because I don't have. Well, I used to have to hit it and then would line up the audio and video together. And then now that we use the switcher, everything goes through one. But I still enjoy the start of the show. Welcome to Never Again Radio. Jesse's told me about you. Stacy's told me about you. What is your name and what do you do for a living?
Great questions on both ends. My name is Eric Dowdle.
I like to start with the hard stuff first.
Well, you know what? And from here, it's all downhill, right? My name is Eric Dowdle. I'm a criminal defense attorney in the Lehigh Valley here, and I've been doing it far too long.
How did you even remotely get into, is it something, like when you were younger, what were you doing? Like, how did you get into criminal defense or, how do you get into wanting to do anything like that?
Fair question. When I look back on it now, it probably was either I do this, I'm on one side of the criminal defense or the other. Yeah. Either I'm being defended or I'm defending. That's the way it started, right? But in reality, what happened was when I was in school, I read a book called To Kill a Mockingbird. And that's really where it started. And then I saw a movie of a play called 12 Angry Men. And it was really interesting, fascinating. When I was in college, the only thing anybody ever did was go to law school because LA Law was on TV, and that's all we could think about. And what's funny is my college advisor, when I told her I was going to law school, she said, she's this little Japanese lady. My undergraduate major was Japanese. And my professor...
What made you take that as an undergrad?
Well, when I was in high school, I went to Japan as part of an exchange program. And I was there for 3 weeks.
I always wondered what that would be like because your life probably has completely changed from doing that.
Yeah, but you know what you find? You find a synergy. You find a sense of universality. If that makes any sense, whether it's Japan or it's anywhere else, you find common threads, right? So now, where Japan is in my life is I understand. I've been in different cultures, so I understand different people, and I try and see things from a different aspect, and try to see things from another person's aspect, which is essentially one of the central points of To Kill a Mockingbird. So you see that intersection between all these different things, right? So by going to Japan and learning Japanese, learning a different language, like a fundamentally different language, as opposed to something that's based on Latin origins like Spanish or French or whatever, you learn the structure of your own language better. So I learned about this country better by seeing it from another side than I did by just living here. And it made me appreciate what I have here so much more, because you don't want to turn this podcast into Eric's theory on Japanese society.
Go right ahead.
but
I have zero to add.
But what was happening was right in the 80s and 90s when I was going to college, and then the yen, the Japanese, everybody was using the Japanese as this model for American society. And what's crazy is that Japanese society was desperate to be American. So it's kind of like, we're going to use your models, but you're desperate to be us. So it's crazy. Mm-hmm. But in reality, there's some things about Japan and the people, wonderful folks. But you have to understand that as an outsider in Japan, you're always going to be an outsider. You're never going to be local. Okay, It's kind of like you walk into Cheers or whatever, Norm, right? Yeah. But that never is going to happen there. And even if you're Japanese and you're not born in Japan, you're still an outsider.
Now, did you know how to speak anything before you went there?
When I was in high school, no.
Okay.
When I was in college, my undergraduate major, again, Japanese. So I took Japanese language, culture, politics, society, you name it, history, and great experience. So how does it translate to modern day now? Well, I still love anime, and I still love all that stuff, and I get to watch it on TV when I was living there.
Yeah.
But my son's getting into it now, and so I can relate to him on that level and tell him about the old school stuff that we were watching on the TV live in Japan in the 80s. So it's kind of cool, but also Japanese architecture, that kind of thing.
Well, they have a long history. Long
Crazy.
history. So that class must have been pretty interesting.
Well, it was 4 years of college.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
that's crazy.
Well,
yeah.
It's just
not
where the
crazy, but
it is crazy. That's where the crazy starts, right?
Yeah.
So when I was getting circle back around to my college advisor. I said, Professor Bundy, again, she was this little Japanese lady with a very dry sense of humor. I mean, like painfully dry. And I said, why? I'm planning on going to law school. And she said, why would you do something stupid like that? Well, I appreciate you being blunt with me. You call it what it is, right? So it's just what we were doing. And I didn't, at the time, nobody talked about being outside the box or living outside the box or anything like that or pushing boundaries. We just did what we did. And so I went to law school, and I was miserable because it was just so uptight and so, it was so rigid and I don't even know how to explain it. Maybe as we talk, I'll figure it out. But
there are a bunch of suits.
Dude, I can't do it. I can't do it.
I always say, that's what I always tell people. I was like, if someone comes in and they're like, listen, I don't want to deal with attorneys. I don't want to do it. And I was like, talk to Eric.
Bro, that's me too.
Because you're a normal person. I can't deal with people that you come and they're like, they automatically think they're above you. And they're just suit people.
Bro, the bottom line is, as an attorney, you're no different than a plumber, than a carpenter, frankly, than a surgeon. Yeah. You just got different problems you got to fix and a different toolbox you work with. But that doesn't make you better than anybody. You're a service industry.
Yeah.
So get over it.
Yeah, okay? with that mindset and how you're even explaining that is so different than anyone who would be in law. But like that must have been so difficult to have that mindset because everyone else in that class probably does not. Like they're looking to get like a prestigious, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but I get it. But the thing is, and I don't want to paint with that broad of a brush because there are a lot of people out there who feel the same way I do, but won't break out of the mold.
Yeah.
Right. So. There are a lot of good folks out there, and it's just like anything else, whether it's in podcasts or it's in mechanics or whatever. You have good and bad. But for me, I was raised here in Bethlehem, and spent a lot of time in Emmaus with my grandfather, who was a mechanic, never went past 6th grade. I grew up in the bars in Emmaus, listening to the old Dutchman talk Pennsylvania Dutch all the time, right?
Yes.
And Max gut, Junge. Yeah. So anyway, then, when I was in college, I worked at a gas station in the summer, and when I was in law school, I worked as a delivery driver for a lumber company. So my people have always been the mechanics. They've always been the carpenters. They've always been the union guys. That's my crew. My grandfather was a biker back in World War II and rode a Harley back and forth to Bethlehem Steel, where he's a welder. And I asked him when I was a kid, I said, would you teach me how to weld? He said, I won't teach you how to do that because I don't want you to learn how to do it. I want you to work with your head. I don't want you to work with your hands. And now I spend all my time trying to figure out how to work with my hands.
Yeah, isn't that amazing? I even my grandfather would say that too. Like he grew up, he worked in the cement mill, and he did all this stuff, and all those guys, like you'd meet his friends, and you're like, they can do all this crazy stuff with their hands, and they would say, you don't want to do this job, you got to do something better in this job. But yeah, everyone strives to like, I'd love to know how to do half that shit.
Oh yes,
they just don't want you to fall into it. They think you can always do.
My dad was always like that with the print shop. He worked my grandfather worked in the print shop. My dad worked in the print shop. He was in Vietnam and did, and then I would be like, well, I'll just work in a print shop like you did. And he'd be like, no, don't do it. And then I remember doing it and him being like, and then I'd come home and be like, this sucks, that sucks. And then he's like, man.
Yeah, but back then it was, you went to college, and if you got your degree, you got this big career. And they were considered just working class people. And we don't want you to be working class. We want you to go and get a degree, and you're going to go do this. But that's not how shit works, because last I checked,
facts.
You still need electricians. You still need people to fix shit. And they're the ones making. Everyone I know that does that is fucking loaded.
Well, there's this joke, right?
You have more options. You can do a side business with your trade and work with somebody else.
You got more money than I do. That's what I said.
Well, there's this old joke. There's a lawyer who has to get his pipes fixed or something like that. Calls the plumber. The plumber's there 15 minutes. Plumber gives him a bill for $200, and the lawyer says to him, "Well, that $200, you were here 15 minutes." The plumber says, "Well, that's what it is." The lawyer says, well, that's $800 an hour. I'm a lawyer and I don't make $800 an hour. And then the plumber laughs and said, yeah, when I was, I didn't either. So what in growing up and getting older, I've surrounded myself with the people that remind me of the people that I grew up with. So my best friend, Joe Wolf, Joe's Garage, right? E.J. Kowalski. I don't know if you guys know him.
Sounds very familiar.
He's tight with Philip Brown. I don't know if you know Philip Brown.
Yep.
Okay. E.J. Kowalski is a genius, and he is the most unassuming, easygoing guy you're ever going to meet, but legitimately a genius and can do anything in the whole world with his hands. One weekend he decided, my son needs something for the wall, so he took an S10 hood and painted it with metal flake, and then gold leafed it and pinstriped it, and it says Owen Speed Shop on it. Because he was bored one weekend.
Yeah. But how cool would it be to be able to do? That's why, like, I'm a big fan of like Jesse James and all the stuff he does. Yeah. And you watch him, and then one day he just goes, I'm gonna start making guns. Yeah. And all of a sudden he's just like, I went into it. Now he's making
guns,
beautiful guns, Damascus, like, how awesome is that to just be like, what are you gonna do today? I don't know. Maybe I'll restore a car.
Yeah. He's like, then he got into doing like the chef knives.
Yes.
And then they're super expensive. And he goes, if you don't want to buy them, don't buy them.
He made ashtrays. He goes, I'm going to make steel ashtrays.
That's right.
And he sold them for $300 or $400 a piece.
But because he made his bones doing the bikes and got his name out there. But how can you lose with a name like Jesse James? I mean, really, come on.
I know. I wish I.
If you give it to yourself, it doesn't work.
Do you remember at his height, he was selling bicycles that you could buy in Walmart that looked like choppers, and they were like West Coast choppers?
Yeah.
But I mean, that's a huge deal to land
sure
a fucking Walmart.
Yeah.
Do you remember when the Iron Cross T-shirt that was everywhere? Everywhere.
Oh yes. Yeah, and when that was going on, I actually I was on his website and like a chat group, or we call them chat groups now. It was more like a forum, right? Yeah. And through that forum, I met some folks, and we went to New York, and I met Indian Larry.
Yeah, I met him too. I met him too. I had his necklace, a bunch of his shirt. Yeah, he was a cool guy.
Really cool guy.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
really cool guy.
Yeah, he was a cool motorcycle, and he did cool shit. And he was really old style stuff. When he would go and do all like the chain, remember he did chain frames and all that stuff. And people are like, that'll never hold. And he's Holds me. He was the one that would stand. He was one who would ride down the bike. Unfortunately, he died doing that. But he built his bike so perfect. He would stand on top with his hands outstretched and ride down the highway. On fucking motorcycle on chain frame bikes.
I remember,
and they were like, ugh.
Dude, that when that whole culture was put on TV. Do you remember when they did like Jesse James did that like bronze chopper or whatever? And he went with Indy and Larry and they rode to like Mexico.
No, that was Kid Rock.
It was Copper. It was Kid Rock.
Copper chopper.
Yeah. Well, that's what turned me on to fucking Charlie Daniels, because fucking Kid Rock was singing a Charlie Daniels song, and I was like, what is this song?
No, Charlie Daniels is amazing,
I fucking
bro.
tracked it down, and I was like, oh, that's a Charlie Daniels song.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, crazy. And that got me into Kid Rock, too. I was like, how fucking cool is this guy?
Yeah. Kid Rock, definitely cool. And, it really has gone so much further than where he started.
Yeah, everyone thinks they look at how he was when he first came out, and they're like, this guy's a fucking weirdo. But when you follow his story, he's fucking brilliant. And I tell him all the time, it's one of the best concerts I've ever been to. Really? He plays every fucking instrument throughout the whole night.
It's amazing, right?
So he walks around and just starts playing every instrument the whole night, and it's like, fuck.
And what a genius move for him to switch genres, because it's like, how would he have stuck around in...
You couldn't.
Because it's like that, what he's doing, what he did back then isn't even a thing anymore.
Correct.
And then anything that's remotely considered that style music would be young kids doing it. So if he wouldn't have switched lanes, I mean, he had a bunch of money and didn't have to do anything, but now he's just probably making quadruple the amount, because now he knows what he's doing.
Facts.
On top of, so he's like, all right, well, if we made money doing this, let's,
And he's respected by everyone in country music, so they're like,
well, because he's got that outlaw vibe to him, right? And he's got some real skills.
And he's down south. He's got a big, like, freaking beautiful house. He's got all these old cars.
Good for him. God bless him.
Yeah.
I'll always back Kid Rock. Now, you were doing Japanese stuff for undergrad.
Yes.
So when you had that conversation with her, when she was just like, why would you want to be a lawyer or whatever, where did it go from there?
Well, where it went from there was I went to law school and went through law school, graduated from law school, and about 3 weeks before I was supposed to graduate, I ran into a cousin of mine who had, right after Vietnam, gone to Guam to work as a civil engineer. And he bought some jungle property that was on the beach because he loved diving. Yes. And then
I love it already.
Okay, Dennis is cool as fuck. Okay, so I went to visit him because the Japanese wanted his land for hotels and condos. So in the 80s, late 80s, early 90s, the man was in his early 40s and was retired. Okay, and he was. I mean, he's loaded, right? And just as cool as the day is long. He worked, when he was growing up, he worked as a checkout, a bagger at Gabby's Market, and so he's a family member, but he's just really laid back and relaxed. So he was home visiting, and I ran into him, say in April, and he said, "Well, why don't you come out to Guam? I'll get you some interviews with law firms and stuff like that, and we'll see where it goes." So. Right before, right after I finished my last exam, I flew to Guam. Everybody else was just drinking and carrying on and everything else. I flew to Guam because at the time, again, the yen was so strong and Japan was so strong that the folks in Japan who couldn't afford to come to New York or California or wherever to get married in the States, they could go to Guam, which was the United States territory, and they could get married on U.S. soil and still be married in the U.S., right? So Guam was set up, it was like a tourist trap for the Japanese. I mean, because everything was stupid money. I mean, this was 1992, and I'll get back to Dennis in a minute, but 1992, the ADD.
Go.
So
these are the best. These are the best little pockets in the show.
Well, that and all the coffee, right?
Yeah.
So the ADD kicks in. But at the time, they were renting jet skis by the minute, okay? To rent a Camaro for a week was like $700
because it's American car.
Because it's an American, big American car. So it's American car, V8 muscle car, the whole 9 yards, and they were just soaking these folks, and and they made it while they could. But so anyway, I fly out to Guam. I interview with law firms in Guam, and I come back. I graduate. And then I leave for Guam, and they paid for me to move there. They paid for me to study for the bar exam and the whole 9 yards. But until you live on an island, bro, you've never lived on an island. And I'm talking about a little island. Guam is 32 square miles, and it is at the time. Now, again, this is 1992. This is not now.
Yeah.
But 1992, the whole island, the center of the island is all jungle, right? And there are still tanks and everything else left over from World War II in the jungles.
Yeah.
And machine gun emplacements and the whole 9 yards. It's all still there. But the folks were just barely getting by. I mean, like, corrugated shacks and the whole 9 yards. And then ringing the island, whether it's a U.S. Naval base or an Air Force base, the rest of the island was made up of Japanese hotels. Or not Japanese hotels, but like 5-star hotels. And there was just so much excess and so much money on the ring of Guam and so much poverty in the center of Guam. Guam couldn't support itself in terms of the infrastructure. So you'd have rolling power outages. You'd have, the streetlights are out on that street this day, and there's no air conditioning. And when I worked in an office building, and we used to wear shorts and t-shirts to work because it was so hot and so humid.
A lot of linen, I bet.
A lot of sweat, bro. But it was so hot, and the parts of the office building would be dark because they couldn't have the so then Typhoon Omar hit, and Omar was a super typhoon, 180 mile an hour sustained winds, just crazy. There was no power for 2 weeks. There was no running water for 2 weeks. We used to have to put water in our bathtubs and everything else. So it prepared us for Katrina. But it was all kinds of crazy stuff living there. And eventually I was like, I gotta pull the plug.
How long were you there?
About 6 months.
Yeah.
So I went from making a huge amount of money working there to making $5 an hour at the Gap while I was studying for the Pennsylvania bar exam.
Yeah.
And I was making $100 a week as an intern at the DA's office in Northampton County. But that's what...
But you were doing law when you were in Guam?
Yeah, I worked for a law firm.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy.
Dude, it was crazy. It was crazy. But, there was nothing really to do because it was so damn expensive.
Yeah.
Your studio here, I had an apartment that was like a quarter of this size with no kitchen facilities. It was $600 a month. And it was just, you go to the grocery store and find the least expired food because everything had to be brought there.
And by the time I got there, it was
already out, right?
What a bizarre structure of living to have all that expensive stuff, and then to live there would be totally crazy.
But it's like that everywhere. We went on my honeymoon. I went
in New York.
Yeah. No, when I was on honeymoon, we went to St. Lucia.
Yeah.
And we were staying in these beautiful hotels, and it's all beautiful. And then it's like, they're like, whenever you want to go anywhere, just make sure you tell us, and we'll drive you. And I was like, why? What the hell's going on? So we took a taxi into town, and I'm like, everybody's poor.
Dude,
and like, if you work for a hotel, you struck it rich just so you can make next to nothing. Meanwhile, it's all these fucking all these people, Americans and British people coming in and just
dropping bank, right?
When I won that trip to Punta Cana, I won a trip,
nice,
like a beer rep,
home run.
He was like, "Look, you just got to go do something stupid on stage." I wore a Frankenberry costume and fucking danced on. The video's still out there. I'll run it as a promo sometime. But when I went there, that's the furthest I probably traveled or did something like that. And we got there, and I was like, "Man, this is fucking crazy!"
Right.
Like the airport's like a fucking tiki hut.
Oh wow!
And I was like, "Holy shit!" Like this is fucking like you start getting a little worried about like, hey man, if like this is when you watch those like
south, I'm done.
USA movies with my mom, where like people are getting kidnapped. So we go to the hotel and we're like looking to do an excursion, and I'm like, all right, and I'm like, I'm not gonna bring my wallet because I don't want to lose it because we were going swimming and shit. I just put cash in my pocket. We get on an old school bus with no fucking windows. We leave the resort,
right,
and we start, and then I look over and there's a dead dog in the middle, like on the side of the road, like of an intersection. And then I just see all this poor rundown shit, and I'm like, holy shit, man. And then my mind starts fucking going, and I'm like, because we went on a walk earlier, and on the ends of the beach is armed guards with machine guns.
Yep.
Right.
And I'm like, holy shit. So now I'm thinking like, well, if these guys have machine guns, what's to say like this, a fucking, a car pulls up like in fucking a video game and, we're all kidnapped. And I'm like, you don't even have a wallet or ID. Like you have nothing to prove who you are.
Correct.
It fucked with my head for a while.
I believe that.
We got to the resort and that was still weird. And then they just took us out on a boat. And then I was like, holy shit, man. Like this is like
it's depressing.
Really
real.
Really fucking risky.
It gets real quick.
And then it was just weird because the resort was just painted as this Corona commercial, and then behind the curtain was this fucking dying town with dead dogs in the shit.
Dude, St. Lucia, all you saw for miles were fields, and there were bananas. They were growing bananas, and you look, and it's like Chiquita and Dole and all that. And it's like, do these people make any money? Oh, no, they don't. They'll work all day long, and they don't make any money. And I was like, it makes you feel like shit when they're like, boy, bananas are really expensive at Giant today. And it's like, that dude didn't fucking make anything.
That's
what a
unbelievable.
Shame.
And the thing is, in Guam, it was mostly military, right? It was mostly military and military families, and I got to be friends with some local kids, not kids, local guys who were there at who were from Guam, and everybody's saying, "Oh, you can't be friends with them because they're gonna jump you, they're gonna roll you, they're gonna take you out somewhere, and whatever." But they were good folks. I mean, just good people.
I like hanging out with those people.
Hell yeah, they're the best.
They're the best.
For real.
I like going to shady bars and you just meet the guy. They're a little rough to you at first.
Well, that's like we went to New Orleans and we were walking around and everybody's going to all these places and stuff. And I love New Orleans. Is so great. And then we met some locals and we're like, where do we go for like real food?
Right.
Not like the tourist shit.
Yeah, I don't want that.
And they're like, here, go to this person's in the back of their house. And I'm like, what? And he goes, oh no, there's a window, and you go up to the window, and like they make real food, and I'm like, I'm in. That's where I want to go. I don't want the glitz and all the fucking light. That's bullshit.
It is. It really is. Yeah. And the thing, and so with getting to know the local folks, you get the island flavor rather than what's in the malls, right?
Yep.
Rather than buying the idea, you get the real deal.
Yeah.
And it was cool. It was really cool. But Guam's its own story for another day, probably. But then coming back here and working in the DA's office.
How did you transition into that? Did you find work before you left?
No.
Or did you just come and be like,
I packed my shit and I came home. So then I found a job I was working at temp agencies and stuff like that. And then I found a job at the mall and then was studying for the bar exam. And
what were you doing at the mall?
I worked at the Gap. I was selling clothes at the mall. And then I went to... I worked for John Morganelli at the no, I shouldn't do that. Worked for John Morganelli at the DA's office as an intern, and then passed the bar exam. And I kind of had to hit the ground running because there were no jobs. Everybody's cranking out these attorneys, and there are no jobs for attorneys.
Well, on a side, when you go to law school, I always want to know this. When you're in law school, do they have you like? Do you study for say you're going to do civil or you're going to do criminal, or is it just a broad? I'm going to law school.
The answer is yes.
Because I know people that only do criminal, people that only do civil, and then there's ones that's like, well, I can do some civil, and it's like, I ever wonder, did you just kind of learn a little bit, or do they gear you towards
the thing is, law, the practice law has changed dramatically because it used to be just, you could be a general practitioner.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
You kind of got to narrow it down. Now you can't by law say you specialize in anything.
Yeah.
But what I do is I say I limit my practice to criminal law because in law school, they don't teach you, going back to your question, when I was in law school, again, I'm getting old, but when I was in law school, they didn't teach you how to do X, Y, Z in the third. They taught you how to, if you look at what law school is, the joke is the first year they scare you to death. The second year, they work you to death. And the third year, they bore you to death. So the first year, I mean, you're basically taught how to read cases. The second year, you're taught how to read statutes. The third year, we got to do another year so you can kind of do what you want, right? But coming out of law school, you really aren't qualified to do anything other than go to work for a law firm.
Isn't that amazing? You pay all this money, you go to all this stuff, and it's like, you're not really qualified. You pass the tests.
Well, that's a whole different ballgame.
Yeah.
But I do want to tell you, I want to go back to your question.
Yeah.
I had a professor, and I went to Widener Law School, and they just opened the doors when I got in. My grades in college were fantastic. My LSAT scores, my standardized testing scores, lousy. So, they basically told me you should go watch fires. You're not going to be a lawyer, right?
Yeah.
So I went to, I got into Widener, and we had just opened up, so we were an unknown quantity, right? So I had this professor named John Wary who taught DUI law, and he said, look, you guys aren't going to Harvard. You don't have the connections that you need for Harvard. I'm going to teach you how to make some money doing DUI work. Facts, right?
There's money.
That is nuts and bolts.
It's Pennsylvania. You can make money.
Nuts and bolts what I need to do.
Yeah.
So then when I passed the bar exam, nobody was hiring. I mean, nobody was hiring. And kind of like now. But you have this mountain of debt and you got to figure it out. So I basically put my own shingle out and I worked on my own. I had my own little office for 9 months. Then I went to be a city solicitor with Bethlehem. I worked in the solicitor's office for a year. Then I was a DA in Northampton County from 95 to 99. Then I went to work for the Steelworkers Union, basically for the Steelworkers Union, Peter Angelos' office doing asbestos litigation. And I'm really not cut out for civil work. It's not my thing. And then went back to the DA's office in Lehigh. And then November of 2002, I hung out my shingle doing defense work. And the thing about criminal defense work is it's kind of like one of those. I limit what I do in criminal defense. So even within criminal defense, because of the evolution of case law, because of the evolution of law, because of all of the laws, you even have to limit kind of what you do in criminal defense to some extent.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, no, and I mean, I know a guy who does Monroe County, and he's known as like the DUI guy. If you get a DUI, you call the office and say, I got a DUI, and they'll go, is it your second, your third? And he'll go, oh, it's my second. It's going to cost this much. This is how long it's going to take. And they specialize in that. As far as everything else, they're not hiring them for firearms charges.
Right. But the thing with DUI is like being a little pregnant. Either you are or you aren't. There's no little bit, okay? It's, oh, well, I heard they had to get engaged. No, if you're pregnant, if you're DUI, you're DUI. Yeah. And it is such a process now that it's very predictable. Now, there's some outliers. There's some cases where it's a bad stop. There's some cases where it's a bad arrest, that kind of thing. So, yeah, I've litigated those. I've tried those cases and everything else. But even within criminal defense, I limit what I do to guns, drugs, gangs, and violent crime. The reason I do that, I spend a lot of time doing drug work in Northampton County, a lot of time doing drug work and auto theft work in Lehigh County, but it's very predictable. There's only so many ways a drug deal happens. Okay, it's kind of like one of those Freddy Krueger movies or a Jason Voorhees movie or even a porno movie. It's all the same at the end.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So it always there's so many. There are not so many different. There are only so many reasons somebody gets shot. Yeah. There's only so many reasons somebody gets stabbed. There's only so many ways it happens. And once you've seen them, I'm not saying I'm an expert, but once you've seen them, it's predictable.
Yeah,
right?
because I mean, how many scenarios are playing out?
My point.
To somebody getting shot. Okay, well, he was either defending himself or he wasn't defending himself. He was, you know what I mean? Like the situation's usually, it's easier to grab.
Well, it is. And physics and gravity, once you understand that the rules are the rules of the rules, those rules you can't break so much.
Yeah.
Okay?
And then, so what do? You bounce somebody comes with you, I did this and that, and then you bounce them off of the rules to what you've seen, and they kind of look to see like, okay, there's something here.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you were a kid and you had one of those banks where you dump a whole lot of change in it and it fits into the little slots. Or another example is criminal law is like baking a cake. People say, well, why am I charged with possession with intent to deliver a controlled substance and possession of a controlled substance and paraphernalia and etc. I said, well, imagine if you're baking a cake and all the ingredients are illegal. That's the way criminal law works.
Yeah.
Okay. So they charge you with everything that goes into baking the cake and the cake.
Yeah, like retail theft and then theft by unlawful taking.
Right, it's all the same shit.
Yeah,
right?
They come two in hand because you took something and then it's the same.
Okay, perfect example. If I slap you across the face, that's harassment. Mm-hmm. Okay, if I close my fist and punch you across the face, that's simple assault. If I knock you down and I keep punching you, that's aggravated assault. If I punch you to the point that it's lights out, and you're like, swinging, hanging on a thread, that's attempted homicide. If the thread breaks, homicide. So that's the continuum of it.
Yeah.
So those are all the elements to making it happen. And the funny thing is to say that a harassment is basically a homicide that hasn't been finished yet, right? Because it's all the parts to making that happen, right? So people say, well, why'd they charge me with everything? I said, well, ultimately, it doesn't matter. Because if you catch the homie, everything's going to roll into it anyway.
Yeah.
But that's why they break it out that way. So it's predictable. The drug case is predictable. Only so many ways shit happens. There's only so many ways a drug deal happens. There's only so many ways you get caught. And it's usually because you got greedy, you got sloppy, or you got comfortable. And if that happens, the Spanish term is much nicer than saying you're fucked. It's say jodió. You're done, man. You're played. It's over.
Yeah.
But
I love the people that come in and they're like, well, I got pulled over, and then I got this, and then they had a firearm, but I'm going to fight the firearm charge. And I said, well, did you have a firearm? Yes.
Again, a little pregnant.
Okay, so you had the firearm, correct?
A little pregnant.
So yeah. So now you had the firearm. So now you're fighting that you didn't have a firearm, and they go, yeah, I'm going to fight that. And I go, talk to an attorney.
Okay, but there's the bottom line. The fact of the matter is that you can get caught with shit all day long.
Yep.
But there has to be proof
that leads, and they could have been a bad stop. It's a bad stop. Doesn't matter what you find.
It could have been a bad stop. Say you're in somebody. Perfect example. I had a guy. Bethlehem cop rolls up on a car south side of Bethlehem, 2:00 in the morning. The windows are tinted so dark he can't see in with the spotlight on the car. This cop was incredibly brave. Got out of his car, walked up to the windows. Okay, unbelievable.
Yeah, I wouldn't.
Dangerous.
I wouldn't do that. Call back up.
Dangerous.
At the door.
Yeah.
Just open it.
Nobody's here. We gave it the office.
It's like worst case scenario.
Yeah, she's not interrupting at all.
Oh, well, so
go ahead. Yeah.
No, so this guy. There are 4 people in the car. Hey, Stace, what's up? There are 4 people in the car.
Stace, you can sit at the bar over here if you want.
Driver, front seat passenger, rear seat passenger behind the driver,
yeah.
And my guy. My guy is rear seat behind the passenger. On the floor at my guy's feet is a Glock. Okay, it sounds like he's done, right? But he's not done, and here's why he's not done. Because the Glock the barrel was pointed at him. What I mean by that is this. When the lights come on, the driver takes the Glock and sets it on the floor.
Yeah.
So it's at my guy's feet, but the angle of the firearm is pointing at my guy, which means that it came from the front seat, not from the back seat.
That's true.
All right? It's so dark.
Yeah, people don't think like that.
It's so,
you know that.
It's so dark in the car that he can't see it because it's a black car with a black interior. So the color of the interior matters. The tinting matters. The angle of the firearm matters. It all matters, okay? Then what we do is we talk about fingerprints. And, no matter how many times I tell this story, nobody does it all. Fingerprints are fragile. They're damning as hell, but they're fragile, okay? If I take the screen of your iPad there and roll my thumb across it, perfect print. If I put my sleeve across it, no perfect print, right? Everybody checks the outside of a gun. Now, you guys, I know guns, right? The guns are lousy receptors for fingerprints because there's a texture to the outside of the gun, okay, which gives an uneven surface. All right?
And then you're mixing in things that clean guns, that fight oil.
Correct.
And now you're basically taking oil from a fingerprint.
Right. Okay. Yep. So, but the other problem you have is, depending on, say for a pistol, if you have a slide that has, I don't know whether you would call it checking or you want to call it grip at the back. Yep. That takes skin cells. So you might end up with DNA on the gun. If you look at a trigger, if it's got checkering or it's got something to give you a feel for it, again, it may shave off skin cells. So there might be DNA. But you're not going to find really fingerprints on the outside of a gun because if it's on the floor, it's rubbing against the carpet, or if the cop's getting it and he's taking it out of the car without gloves on or something like that, gone. But then you pop, if it's got a bullet in the head, now we start looking for fingerprints because a bullet is cylindrical.
Yes.
It's smooth. It's a perfect receptor.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
And now you pop the clip out.
Yeah.
How do you load a clip? Hand around the bottom, thumb at a time.
Yeah.
Every one of them, there should be a perfect handprint because it's oil, right?
Yep.
You oil the clip so it feeds. Every bullet should have a little bit of thumbprint on it. So we take the bullets, and none of them have his fingerprints on them. So you got 10 little Indians that tell me that there's no reasonable doubt reasonable doubt there, right? Yeah. So what happens is we find out afterward. The jury finds him not guilty, and afterwards he goes up and thanks the cop because it turns out that he wasn't going to a party; he was the party. They were going to do him right there, and the cop saved his life.
Yeah.
By arresting him and putting him in jail, the cop saved him.
I love the cases that the people come in and they're like, hey, I was driving my girlfriend's car and I got pulled over.
Yep.
And they go in the glove compartment and her gun was in there.
Yep.
And I'm not allowed to have a gun. I didn't know that her gun was in there.
But there you go.
And the cops are like, oh, you're screwed. You're done. And I'm thinking, you're not. You're not at all. Because if you don't know it was there,
They got to prove it was there. The bottom line is, don't go walking into it assuming you're guilty. No, that's not how this works.
Yeah.
Okay? We're all guilty of something. Everybody's guilty of something. But you're not guilty of what they're charging you with.
Yeah.
So you got, and that's the point of the criminal defense lawyer. It's got to be point by point by point. Now, there are some people, they can't see the forest for the trees. I mean, they're done 10 times. But they still want to take the swan dive into eternity. That's fine.
Well, and I mean, and honestly, my speech, I always say to people, they always come in and they go, "Do I need an attorney?" Yes.
Hell yeah, you need an attorney.
Yes, you do. Well, why? I can just do a public defender. I always say it. I said, "Listen, I can't give you legal advice. I'm not an attorney. All I can say is, if you get a public defender, they're there to make sure you legally know what's happening. If they say something, you can say, what does that mean? And they'll tell you. They're not going to matlock your fucking case and try to prove anything. If you get an attorney, the attorney's going to call the police. They're going to talk to the thing. They're going to work the case because they work for you.
Bro, if we don't kill it, we don't grill it.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I'm trying to tell you. You don't. Yeah, do you need an attorney? I don't know. Do you like want to have a chance, or do you just want to roll the dice and think what happens?
It's not fucking Home Depot.
No.
This isn't do it yourself. I mean, okay, it's like doing electric work at your house. I mean, you may be comfortable.
You could do some of it. Yeah,
you may put up a ceiling fan. You may replace a switch and shit, but you're not changing the electrical service because you can't see that shit and it will kill you.
Yeah.
Okay. The same thing is true with this. It's like getting a tattoo you can't get rid of.
Yeah.
Okay. So don't play games with it.
Oh, I love too. I mean, I deal with it all the time. They'll come out and I was talking to some guys in there, and I go, "Oh, you mean the ones that are in jail?
Yeah.
The ones that like didn't win? Yeah. They're going to tell you how to beat the system now.
Yeah.
Tell me what you've learned. And they're like, "Don't worry, I'm going to beat this case." They didn't read my Miranda rights, and I go, "Cool. Have you ever actually read the Miranda rights?" No, you haven't? Okay, maybe read them and actually think logically what they're saying.
Yep.
And then come back to me. And they're like, well, if they didn't read them, that doesn't mean it.
How many people do you think actually fuck themselves doing that?
A lot.
On what day? No, I mean, because the bottom line is, and I tell everybody, if the lights come on behind you, the only thing you say other than your name is lawyer.
Yeah.
Otherwise, shut the fuck up.
Yeah, don't say anything.
You don't have to say anything. You're not going to talk yourself out of it. You're going to talk yourself into it.
Yeah.
You're not going to talk yourself out of it.
I mean, I'm part of I have the U.S. Law Shield, then I guess NRA has one, and then USCC, they all have one. But I had it, and when I went to that meeting, it was there, and there were police officers there, and the guy's just like, hey, man, when you get pulled over, like, do you give him your ID and then give him your concealed permit? And I go, I just do as a common courtesy. He goes, why? Criminals don't do it. Why would you do it? He goes, you get stopped, you say nothing. Like they give you a card that if you're involved in a shooting or any kind of a thing,
shut up.
You take the card, you go, I'm calling this person. And that's it. You don't say nothing.
And can I tell you, I've gotten the call, I just shot somebody, what do I do? I've gotten that call. Yeah. Okay? I've gotten a call from gangsters and I've gotten that call from cops. Okay? Yeah. And the reaction is exactly the same.
Sure.
Because whatever you see on TV, it's not the same.
No.
Okay? When somebody, I've never had to do that, thank God. Okay, there's a song by the Mighty Mighty Boss Tones called "The Impression That I Get," and I never had to knock on wood, but I know some people who have. Yeah. And so what I'm saying is, you never want to make that call, no matter how cool it is in the movies and shit. It's not the same.
No.
So when you get that call, both the gangster and the cop were crying when they called. Okay, yeah. Because they've never been down that road before.
Oh, I say it all the time. You hear these guys, you sit in there, oh, I'm fucking tough, I'm tough. Yeah, well, you know how many times I go into jail and see you fucking tough guys crying?
Yeah.
Every fucking time.
Well, the thing is,
every time.
Everybody wants to be a fucking gangster until time to be a gangster.
And everyone wants to be a gangster until you get caught, and then your friends aren't your friends anymore.
This is what I'm saying.
They're never your friends when you get arrested.
You know, having done this and Stacy will say yes or no, but going over, 20-some years of doing this, or 30 almost, the number of gangsters that I have met, I mean, true, real diehards, right? Maybe 5.
Yeah.
Over 30 years. Because it's not the same anymore, and it's not that whole omerta, that whole code. Come on.
Yeah.
You know, what's real is real is real. So the bottom line is, shut up.
Yeah.
If they're gonna pull you over, they're not there to, the police want to talk to me. Should I go in? Why? You think they're your friends? You're gonna talk your way out of it?
Listen, I still every day I giggle, and it's not nice, but every day I giggle, and they call and they're just like, I don't understand. The cops called me and they said to come in and they wanted to talk to me.
Yep.
And all of a sudden I'm in jail and I go, yeah. Do you think they're there? They're having a barbecue? Like, you just want to come and have a conversation? Right. Anytime they call you and you say, all right, well, I'm going to contact my attorney and I'll have my attorney come with me.
Yep.
Why would you do that yourself?
It's a game changer. Really, why would you? Okay. So It doesn't make any sense. If they're calling you, they want you.
Yeah. And it's like, well, I can't believe they did that. Well, yeah, because now they don't have to go out and find you.
What are you,
or
shocked?
Handcuff you and do. Yeah, like you just walked in. That's why wouldn't they do that?
It's like people who represent themselves at trial.
I love those.
Two quick stories. Quick stories. The first one was a guy represents himself at trial, and it's a robbery. And the witness says, he questions the witness, well, how do you know it was me? He said, well, I was watching you. You came in. You were wearing, a purple shirt and black pants. You looked very sharp. And the defendant says, well, thank you.
Yeah, you're
done. Stick the fork in, baby.
You're
over.
You're not smart.
Done.
You're not smart.
I had one. This guy.
That would have been me.
This guy hit.
Thanks.
This guy hit. He was driving a Buick Electra 225, right? A land yacht.
Yep.
So he's driving it. He hits 4 or 5 parked cars, backs up, hits another one. The police find the car at the 7-Eleven on East Broad Street in Bethlehem. We're at trial. He did fine picking the jury, just fine picking the jury. But the problem came with cross-examination, asking that one question too many. So he says to the officer on the scene, well, if I was driving, how do you know it was me? Well, you were staggering around in the parking lot, complaining of chest pains, and I saw the imprint of a steering wheel in your chest. How do you know it was a steering wheel? Well, because I've been a deputy coroner for the last 15 years, and I've responded to hundreds, if not thousands, of motor vehicle accidents where the driver died, and the imprint in their chest looked exactly like the imprint in your chest. Oh, no further questions?
Yeah.
The jury was out 14 minutes. It was just enough time for them to get to the elevator and turn around and come
exactly.
back.
To actually sit down and laugh about it. And then
Right.
Yeah, I know.
80 IOs, bro. Done.
Listen, I was there the one day and I had the guy, and he was representing himself, and I just laughed because the judge just kept going, nope, can't use that one. Go back to the law library. Nope, can't use that one. Can't do it. And it's just like, dude, just stop. Just you're screwing yourself.
Yeah.
At least, and the judge said, at least have a public defender there.
Right.
So you can throw your ideas at them, and they'll tell you ahead of time, no, don't do that, don't. But some people think because they're in jail and they're talking to all their boys, you got this. You got this. You can do this. This isn't right. No.
Well, and the thing, getting back to, you're talking to the guys in the jail.
Yeah.
There are some very intelligent people in jail who don't belong in jail.
There are.
But all they've learned is how not to do it the last time.
Yes.
Okay.
Or they learn how to commit more crime.
But so do you guys remember a movie called Preachy's Honor?
No.
I think it was Jack Nicholson and what's her name? Angelica Houston. He played a hitman for the mafia. And he goes to kill a guy by the name of Mark C. Heller. And Mark C. Heller's wife comes home, and he ends up falling in love with Mark C. Heller's wife. But she says, "Oh, Mark C. was so smart." And he says to her, if Mark C. was so smart, why is he so fucking dead? And that's what I say to that's what I say to these guys. If they're so fucking smart, why are they so fucking locked up?
Yeah, why are you so locked up?
What's the longest and craziest trial you've been a part of?
That's a good one. It was in 19...
Like the most amount of work you had to fight for.
No, this one's crazy. This one is one of my favorites of all time. The defendant's name was Billman. And Billman, you can look this one up. It was really cool to do this one. I was a prosecutor in Northampton County, and this was probably like 1995, 96. The X-Files were on TV, and all this stuff. And Hannibal Lecter was still out there, so all of the profiling shit, that was really big.
Yeah.
And so what happens is this family on the south side of Bethlehem, they find damage at the Saints Little League football field, over in Hellertown.
Yep.
They find damage, $10,000 worth of graffiti spray paint damage to the bleachers, the buildings, and everything else, accusing these people of being witches and warlocks. Okay? Oh, it gets better. And then what happens is they start getting bombs set off on the windows of their house. What was happening was the guy was making bombs. He'd take a quarter stick, he'd hot glue it to a piece of cardboard. He'd then take duct tape and put a loop on the back so you could put it on the window. He'd then take a cigarette fuse and put it on the fuse of the quarter stick so he had time to get away. But the other thing he did was he wrapped the quarter stick with duct tape containing BBs and screws and all kinds of stuff, making shrapnel, right? So not only did he increase the exponential effect of the explosion with wrapping the thing, to create more compression or more explosion, but he also created shrapnel, what he put on it, and shrapnel from the glass itself by directing the blast into the house. Okay? So what we had was breaking glass, and we had these public things about them being witches and warlocks. Now, growing up in the 70s, I watched Darren McGavin, Kolchak, the Night Stalker.
Yeah.
And one of the episodes was about witches, and the way to deal with the witch was to publicly call her a witch and break glass. So I started thinking maybe we have satanic stuff going on. Maybe this guy's got whatever going on. So I call Quantico. And Steve Mardigan, who was one of the guys who created the behavioral science unit, the profilers at Quantico, he calls me back. Now, this was like, again, we were talking earlier about shooting with a 50 caliber. Yeah. This was the clouds parting. This was the chorus of angels.
You meet the guy who is the guy.
I met the guy.
That you hear about the guy.
Right. So he gets on the phone with me, and he gives me a profile of the guy I'm dealing with and how to catch him. So over the next 3 years, we work on figuring out how to catch this guy.
Isn't that fucking amazing how those people, like the knowledge they know, that you can sit there and just start calling shit, and they can start telling you, like, he's going to do this. And
but what it is it's based on observation. It's based on experience.
Yep.
And it's based on the idea that there are certain rules that always happen.
Yeah, human behavior.
Yeah. So we knew who it was. We had to figure out how to catch him because we could never catch him in the area. And he had this alibi for being a production supervisor at a plastics plant over in Peaburg overnight. So we could never catch him. And there were some nights that things happened that didn't feel like him, if that makes any sense. And there were some nights that happened that did feel like him. So you got a sense for how this guy was working. So he gets arrested. He's waiting for trial, and trial gets dragged out, which was a mistake by the defense counsel. Mistake, because we kept working. And this guy kept doing things. So all of a sudden, the family starts getting junk mail. Now, this was back in the day when you could send a card that you found in a magazine in and get all kinds of subscriptions and stuff like that, or music or CDs or cassettes and that.
Columbia House.
Or BM.
They took so much money from me.
Me too. BMG Music.
You
get 12 CDs for $1.
Yeah.
So anyway, a penny. It was a penny.
Yeah.
So
you taped the penny to the thing.
Yeah. So anyway, they started getting boxes of junk mail. Every day, boxes and boxes of junk mail. The family did. And we found out that we got the copies of the cards from the companies that they sent them into. And we had he being the defendant, Billman, sit down and do handwriting.
Yeah, fill out, yeah.
So we had them look at the cards and look at the handwriting. And Randy Miller, who's now the chief of police here in Nazareth, was the cop that I was working on the case with. And he, for whatever reason, sent along copies of the graffiti. And we got a call back from state police that said, we can't identify the cards as being him, but send us some more pictures of the graffiti. It was the first time anywhere in the country that an expert was able to in court identify handwriting to graffiti that was done. And that was where it all began. That's when it all started unraveling for this cat. So what happened next was we got a video of a kid that said he was with him when he did some of this stuff. So we sent the video to him because we have to. We have to give him his discovery.
Yeah, discovery, yep.
So now he's got a video of this kid throwing him under the bus.
Oh, you just threw out a little sprinkle of...
Yeah. So what happens is we got the idea that because he was working at this plastics company, he was not clocking out and he was leaving. And he was coming to Bethlehem on 78, doing what he was doing and going back so nobody ever missed him. So it was Good Friday into Saturday. I got a call at like 2 o'clock in the morning with the victim's family screaming on the phone, he did it again. I said, put on the police. This was after we sent him the video. Put on the police. So we get the officer on the phone, say, look, he's still in the neighborhood. Lock the neighborhood down and send police units to the plastics company because that's where he's going back to. And you can catch him when he's coming back. We caught him in the neighborhood with a ski mask and more of the homemade bombs.
That's crazy.
It was insane. I got calls from movie producers out in Los Angeles who wanted to do a movie of the week and this kind of stuff on it. Now, it never went anywhere, but it was still the coolest case that I ever worked on. And what was really crazy was we were able to find that this guy had done this before when he was a juvenile. And the we located the victim. He hadn't done it to the same level. He was amping up.
Yeah, practicing.
He was well, he's getting better, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So, and then remember I said there were some things that he was doing that didn't feel like him? It was clear that somebody that he knew that was close to him was doing it to throw people off.
Yeah.
So it was
Did
amazing.
he ever get into why he did any of that shit?
Yes. So what happened was he had a record for being involved with kids, you know, being a criminal kid, pedophile kind of stuff. And what happened was he started this whole thing. He was a football coach, and the kids that he would perpetrate on were kids playing football. So he called the family of these kids that ultimately became the victims ahead of time and said, look, I'm having some problem with your kids. And I think that was, whether it was psychological training or whatever it was, he was trying to deal with the problem in his own way. Now he's messed up, but he was trying to deal with his problem in his own way by calling the family and saying that there was an issue. And the father of the kid said, what are you, some kind of pervert? And that pushed his buttons. And he said, if you're going to get nasty with me, I can get nasty too. 3 years of hell for these folks.
Oof.
Yep.
Oh, he fucked with them for 3 years?
3 years, bro. It went on for
Jesus
3
Christ.
years.
Who's got an attention span to do that?
Well, he just didn't stop. He just didn't stop. Now, he stopped now because he died in prison, but he didn't
Yeah,
stop.
how long did he get locked up for then?
12 to 27 years. It was the
Damn.
most time anybody had ever gotten in Northampton County for a non-homicide related case.
That's fucking crazy.
It was crazy. The trial.
So you were working on this the whole time while doing other cases and his life and everything else?
Oh yeah. And it's fantastic.
And that's what always boggles my mind. Like, yeah, people like that, like DA, they have how many cases to go through? I wouldn't be able to concentrate on that much shit and give that much attention to it.
3 fucking years doing that to somebody, man. What the fuck?
Yeah.
But because it's cool like that, you would draw your attention. You know what I mean? You'd be able to do more cool shit. If it's just a regular mundane case, I would just...
No, but you know what? There's no such thing, really. There are average cases that you can predict the outcome, but the thing is, really and truly, whether it's, sometimes a truck driver with a speeding ticket is as important to him.
Not saying this, but I'm saying as far as being able to do all that and keep, like if you're a DA and you're dealing with hundreds of cases, I think doing that is what keeps you motivated. Like you're doing cool shit.
No,
If you're a DA and you only do say DUIs,
DUIs, then you get that and they're like, oh, this is like a TV show.
Yeah, this stinks.
Well,
exactly.
Where's Ice-T?
But but Ice-T, right? Yeah. But nobody ends up playing you on TV.
No.
But the thing is, I can't do civil work, and I can only do the adrenaline kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just can't do.
What's the most dangerous case you've been a part of? Was that it, or is there stuff where like people, are like pissed off at you for doing your job?
Oh, well, people are pissed off at you for doing your job. People are pissed off at me for doing my job. No, not really.
Yeah.
Not really. I mean, sometimes, people are, what we deal with, people are the worst. I mean, a lot of people have hit rock bottom, even if rock bottom isn't as bad as it could ever get. For them, it's rock bottom. It's fucking serious.
Yeah, but but the way you get around it too is that you're honest with them. They come in, you're not giving them fucking sunshine and rainbows.
Bullshit. That is absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
If somebody comes into your office and you're gassing them up, I mean, I get it all the time. I get people who come in and say, "Oh the attorney told me I was getting 10 years." Get the fuck out of here.
Yeah.
You're not getting 10 years, okay?
Yeah.
Somebody's trying to amp you up so they can take money from you, and it doesn't work that way.
I usually tell people, and they're like, "Hey, I talked to a couple of attorneys," and I go, "You know what? Feel free, talk to a couple attorneys. There's going to be 3 ones. There's going to be the one that's, oh, don't worry, I can blow this case out of the water.
Right.
Then there's one that's like, oh, you're fucked. And then you have one that sits down and goes, all right, well, do you want to know should I tell you what's really going to happen or what you're looking at? Like, I go with that one. Don't go with the one that's like, we're going to fucking beat this. That's bullshit.
If someone promises you that shit, I was sick the day they taught mind reading. I missed that class, okay? I don't know. Okay, I can't tell the future.
Yeah, and they do that.
They all the time. Well, I can beat this at the preliminary. Really? No shit.
Yeah,
you can beat that. But the problem is, what they don't tell the people is, if you beat it at the prelim, you showed all your cards, and now the DA just refiles it. Whoop, lights over.
Yeah. Oh, I get those calls too. It's like, oh no, I got this attorney. I gave him fucking $7,000.
Right.
He got it thrown out. He got what? Fucking drug dealing charges and all kinds of shit at the prelim thrown out.
Right.
Really? Felonies. Just they're gonna get rid of it. And all of a sudden it's like, and they had the nerve to go and file again. And I go, He goes, they can't do that's double jeopardy. No, it's
no,
not.
It's not.
It's
no,
not when they withdraw that shit. Yeah,
you missed it. And so
they're not going to withdraw just because, boy, you got them. That's not how that shit works. They don't do that.
If you teach me where I made a mistake early on, I'm going to fix it. Right? So the thing is, what you have to do is, it's okay to beat it at the prelim, but you got to make sure it stays beat.
Yes,
you got to beat it so bad at the prelim.
Like
that
I was not the
again.
guy. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can prove like I'm not that guy.
So
like that,
then you can beat it at the prelim and keep it beat at the prelim.
Yeah.
Okay. But other than that, you're setting yourself up for failure down the road.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, because like you said, you're essentially showing your hand. And that's what people always say. I'm getting this thrown at the prelim. And I was like,
no.
Do you guys play cards? Because what happens is you're essentially walking in and going, this is what I have. And then they're going to look and go, thank you. And then they're going to keep going.
Correct.
And when they keep going, now you're fucked. Now you got to pull some fucking rabbits out of your fucking ass.
100% correct. And that's the point. You, as a defendant, you got no duty to show your cards.
Yep.
And you don't want to show your cards until such time as they can't take it back.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is, at the preliminary hearing, you set up the suppression issues so that when you go in front of a judge of the Court of Common Pleas, now it's too late.
Yeah.
Right? Now it's too late for that suppression because now the record's been made and, sorry, okay? But if it's a factual issue, you want to do it in front of the jury because your 12 friends are the only way to kill it.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Other than that, you got a problem, Jack.
Yeah.
Right? And so if you're going in there with all kinds of smoke and fire and everything else at the preliminary hearing, you better be right.
Yeah.
You better be right.
Yeah, it better be like, listen, this is a false case, and I was in Mexico when this happened, and here's my proof.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have that, the county's just going to say, thank you.
The most solid alibi. The most solid alibi was I was in jail at the time, and that one usually wins.
Yeah, no, there's a lot. I have a couple of those too. Yeah.
Couldn't have been.
Well, no, I honestly, I had a case the one day, and like we have paperwork to fight all this now. That it's like, we make them sign the extradition paperwork. If you get arrested, you're not going to fight to come back to take care of this case. And people are always like, I don't understand why I have to sign this. And I go, well, I'll tell you a reason. I had a case when I had fucking twins. We both bailed them out. And what happened is the one was a piece of shit, and the other one, he just kept signing his name. Yep. Every time he get arrested, he put his brother's name. And it got to the point when he was in jail, and we're sitting there, and he's in jail in New Jersey. And I'm like, what's going on? And he's like, well, he didn't, he's not being brought over. Why not? Well, because he has this case. Well, no, that's not him. That's his brother. So we had to go and go to court and go in front of the judge. And I'm like, hey, have him sign some stuff.
Right.
And all we did was hold the paper. They literally looked completely different how they signed their signatures. Right. And I was like, you tell me. This is generic. This is as easy as it'll be.
Yep.
And he was just like, yeah, I lied the whole time. I always signed my brother's name. And I'm like, that's why we have that fucking paper.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because I don't have time to run the fucking Jersey.
Absolutely.
I'm a fucking I don't know what I do.
Absolutely. And so this is the really real part of what we do. And like you said, there are plenty of people out there. It's, my office, not stuffy at all, not uptight at all, and just keep it real. So do I worry about it? Not really, because I don't take people's money that I don't earn. I don't hold people's money. Yeah. And you just keep it real all the time, and you don't make it personal.
Yeah, how can they make it personal if you're coming in going, listen, we're going to have an uphill battle. We're going to have to do this, instead of, it's beat. Don't worry about it.
I feel like that's just such a better way to handle everything in life, is to act that way instead of just fucking blowing smoke up people's asses.
Yeah, because
there's some that do, and they'll take you for a ride and take tons of money.
And bro, that's the short game.
Yeah.
Okay, because you make the money now, but you burn yourself down the road.
Nope.
Nah, I'm here for the long haul. I'm not here to just beyond that. I don't want to live looking over my shoulder like that. I don't want to live worrying about, I burned this guy.
Some of these judges, I don't know how to do it. Like some of the judges, when they're up there grandstanding and saying about all the shit, those people are going to get out one day and they're going to be fucking looking for you. That's why I wouldn't do that.
Well, the thing is, I mean, how does it help you to put somebody down? How does it help you to treat somebody like shit?
Yeah, and
it doesn't work.
No.
I mean, why? Yeah. The best thing that can happen is, for me, that I see somebody succeeding. I see somebody starting their own business. I see somebody starting a family. Now I won. Well, that's the win.
And that's the advice I give, when people come into our office and they're like, well, you're going through court. You got to from now until you have trial, do something.
Right.
Get a fucking job.
Yep.
Do some fucking charity work. Do some shit, because I've had cases, the guy goes in front and he's been out for 6 months.
Did shit.
And the judge goes, what have you been doing since you've been out? Oh, nothing. Xbox and stuff.
Call
Xbox.
COD.
And it's like, you fucking idiot. They want to see that you're bettering yourself. Right. They want you to better yourself. They don't want you to continue to go down the path. That's not how that works.
And the same thing with me. I tell these folks, look, this will be over.
Yes.
Believe it or not, it sucks now. This will be over. Let's talk about what you do when it gets
moving
over.
on. Yeah.
So I talk to guys in the unions, and I talk to guys, in different jobs. And look, you may not be able to get a job as CEO of IBM or something like that, but there's a lot of ways, and this is what we were talking about before with the trade union. You can make a lot of money and do very well for yourself and take care of your family and do what you have to do, because you know what? If you're home with your kids on the floor, it's very difficult to get shot in a bar.
Yeah.
if you're at church on Sunday morning, not too many drive-bys.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's tough to get arrested if you're too tired after the end of the day and you go home and eat some dinner and go to sleep. Maybe have a beer on the sofa. It's very tough to get arrested for that.
I have people too. They'll come in and they'll go, "Well, I have a history now. I'm screwed." And I was like, "Yeah, you should just hang it up. You got no other jobs. Like, you got arrested for fucking theft. You might not run a fucking bank one day, but guess what? Learn something. Do something else. Don't fucking. It's over." And then they're the first ones on fucking social media just going, "Oh, this justice system doesn't help out with criminals."
Okay,
it's like,
now the only thing I will say is that there's so much time given to punishment, and I'm not a bleeding heart.
Yeah.
There's so much time given to punishment, but let's fucking work.
Yeah.
You teach require a trade.
There are programs when you're in there that have proven that do work.
Sure,
but it's a matter of, do they want to take the time to do it?
Correct. And the other problem is that when shit gets hard, you go back to what you know how to do.
Yeah.
So when shit goes south, I started selling again because I was laid off or whatever. I get that, but you still fucked up. You still broke the law.
And then it's like when you find that lane, and then when you do start slipping up, and then if you have a positive lane, like doing any sort of a trade, or then you find a hobby like rebuilding a car, then you can jump into that instead of being a fuckhead.
Right. And or you could turn it into a new business, or you can turn it,
sure.
So if some of the most savvy people I've met have been drug dealers, but they're selling the wrong thing.
Yeah.
Salesmen. They're born salesmen.
They turn what they're doing with the sales.
And that's the thing. The drug business is a business, and the cost of doing business is time, blood, or money. It's either your time in jail, it's your blood in the street, or it's money to lawyers. Okay? Yeah. So if you're doing that, understanding the cost of doing business, if you can then translate that into selling whatever and doing it legit, there's nothing holding you back.
Yeah.
Except yourself.
What's it been like for you to have done Japan, Guam, and you've gone to all these different places, came over here, getting everything going, and then when you get all this done, and this is what you're doing for a living now, and all that hard work and experience, and now you're running in your lane. What's it like for you to have that?
It's a job.
Yeah.
It's like that song by Cypress Hill, Rockstar. It's a job, but it's still a job.
Yeah.
Okay? Yeah. And it's, just for you, this is Saturday morning.
Yeah.
For me, people say, "Oh, well," and people who get hired in the job say this all the time. "Oh, it must be so exciting to do this." It is, but ultimately it becomes Tuesday.
Yeah.
Ultimately, you're involved in the homicide. Yeah, that was Wednesday. Now I got to go on and do something else.
Yeah.
And I still have to make sure that I'm helping out at home, and I still have to make sure that I'm getting my son to school and making sure he doesn't screw around. It's work. You're a human being just like everybody else. We were talking about Jesse James making ashtrays and knives and guns. Yeah, the man's brilliant and he's got real talent. But at the end of the day, he's still got to show up and work like everybody else does. It's what you do. But like you guys, you do what you got to do what you want to do. So you put in the time to do what you got to do and get as good as you can at it. And that gives you a little bit more free time to do what you like to do.
Yeah, because you find the pockets of free time, but then it's the same thing as where someone's like, "Well, what are you doing tomorrow?" And I'm like, "Well, I got back-to-back podcasts." But then like, essentially, it's like, "Well, I'm working Saturday." Because it's like, when this is done, I now have to edit 3 podcasts before next week. Right. But it's like, but to me, I have to sometimes look at it as like, oh, this is work. But you work to do this instead of having to deal with some asshole telling you what to do all day.
Because nobody just handed this shit to you. Right?
Absolutely not.
And
absolutely not.
At some point, you worked and you got to this point. So I would turn the same question to you.
Yeah.
What's it like to be in the lane you want to be in? It's great on some levels. It's work on other levels.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no perfect thing. But it's been good to me. We work real hard. There are some days that are stressful. There's some days that are cool. There's some days, when you get to win. I had a lady who was Sherry Sacco, who was, after 34 years at the Turnpike, fired and then charged with all kinds of criminal offenses. And we went to trial and we went knuckles up and we beat the case. And that was the greatest damn feeling in the world. It really was. And that's what keeps you going. Because, you get knocked in the dirt quite a bit, but by the same token, your skin gets a little thicker and you realize how it's working, and then you try to tell people, look, this is what's going to happen. You don't have to believe me. I'll do it how you want to do it, but this is what's going to happen to you. I know that if I drop that pen 100 times, it's going to fall 100 times. And I'm telling you, I've seen this before. This is what's going to happen. And if you do it the way you want to do it, that's fine. So if you keep doing what you're doing, you're going to keep getting what you got. Yeah. And so the same is true for you. Yeah. I mean, if what you want to do is go out and play with guns, then you got to hustle to do what you got to do in order to go out and do what you want to do. If you want to have a podcast, okay, then build the studio, then do this, then do that, then hustle till finally you're in that spot where you're doing what you want to do, and then you can take your thing and run with it.
Yeah. But now my question to you is, how hard is it for you to turn all this off when you go home?
That's a hell of a question.
It's an awkward. It's awkward. I mean, I can tell you, like, I've changed. I mean, I've done this for 14 years, and I can tell you, like, I'm not the same person. Like, my wife is used to it now, but like, we'll go out and like, I can tell when people are kind of weird. Like, I'm a lot more defensive now. I'm a lot more thing, but especially you dealing with cases all day.
Well, the thing is, you think about the honeymooners. Because again, I was raised on TV, so you think about the honeymooners, and when I think it was Norton came out of the working in the sewers, he said, no matter how much you clean up, you still smell like the sewers at the end of the day. Yeah. And for me, I mean, I got a foul mouth. The stories and jokes I tell make people cringe. But eventually, it's that kind of gallows humor that you learn how to deal with. That's one. Second, like you said, you become defensive. You become thicker skinned. You become suspicious. You look at people a different way. You don't trust. It's not as easy, right? Yeah. But the thing is, and probably with you, probably with me, you want to trust people because you see shit all the time. Yeah. You want to believe that this is the hooker with the heart of gold. You want to believe that this is the one good cop in a bad precinct. You want to believe all those stories, but at the end of the day, they're stories. Yeah. So, right?
What truth to that?
So, everybody brings good and bad to the table. And as I said at the beginning of this, we're all guilty of something. We all have parts of our story that we don't want people to read out loud. But you do the best you can with what you got, and you can't turn it off. Yeah. You can't stop being who you are. But I can tell you that I'm not as nice of a person as I used to be.
Yeah.
Just like you.
Isn't that a shame? It seems like, I mean, I'm glad that I've dealt with all this crap, and now, like I said, like, my wife just goes along with what I say because she knows, like,
let it go.
I'll call and I was like, hey, these people are going to to be fighting real soon because I know.
I can see
let's just leave here and
it's
do
fun
this.
Being on the phone with you at work.
Yeah, or
I just laugh.
Or like we'll go through like a shopping mall and I'm like, take the kids and just keep going down the lane because I bailed this guy out like 2 years ago and he doesn't need to know who my wife is.
Correct.
And who my kids are.
Correct.
So they have we have code words of like, if you hear me say, just keep walking. Like, you don't know me anymore.
Yep.
Like that, it sucks that you have to do that.
But, the thing is, that's true. That's one aspect of it. And I keep my family away from what I do.
Yeah, nobody knows shit. I'm not like Facebook. You won't see a picture of my wife.
I don't have
kids.
Facebook. Nope.
None of that.
Well, maybe I do have Facebook, but I don't have any pictures of my family on it. But Stacy runs the Facebook for the office. But the other thing is you become somewhat schizophrenic. And that's the way I've really gone to in my own life. I try and turn it off. But I heard a story about there was a guy who was he was working with a contractor, and they said, "Oh, he's so great." Blah 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 blah. Now the guy's a pro football player. He said he's so great. Blah. Well, that you meant that Mike.
You didn't mean the field that wants to kill you.
You didn't mean the other Mike. And the same is true with me. That's this Eric. It's not that Eric.
Yeah.
So when we go into court, I try to be nice to everybody because it doesn't cost extra. Be nice to everybody. Be honest. Talk to people. Deal with it. Do the best you can. But when it's time to go, you go, and you don't. It's like an on-off switch. So if we're in trial, I don't know you. You're not my friend. Yeah. It's war. After trial, we're fine. But during trial, whole different ballgame. I don't talk to anybody. Because now we're in it. Yeah. Now it's a whole different ball. We can talk about anything in the world up to that time. But once we're in it, and that's the end of it.
What a very unique profession, and it's one of the reasons I wanted to have you on and dig into it. I didn't know there was that much of a rabbit hole And with your ADD, you're very. I can already tell we're very similar. But like it would have interested me more if I would have known how much like the attention and everything goes in a spiral into just getting into work like that. It's super interesting.
But it is ADD, right? It's adult onset ADD because just like you, just like me, you have ADD, but then you also have hyperfocus.
Yeah.
And when you are really into something, everything else disappears, right? So you can, when I was a kid, I used to build models, the car models, and I would sit for 12 or 13 hours at a time building car models. Now, if I'm in trial, time just stops meaning things. The time just clicks by like this because I'm in it and I'm focused on it. It's all I can think about. And when you talk about that, the trial that we were talking about with Billman, it went on for 3 years. So was I focused on it all the time? No, but when I was.
Yeah.
So I'm on it now, but then I'm going to go to somewhere else. And so the question is whether you're a podcast host or whether you're a podcast host or you're an attorney or whatever. The question is it the chicken or the egg? Did you start doing this because of your multitasking ADD issues and your hyperfocus issues? Or did it become worse or better because of that? And the same thing I ask myself. I don't know, okay? But I can tell you that I'm only functioning at 100% if things are chaotic.
Yeah, same here. Yeah.
If it becomes normal, I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm the same exact way. And then it's weird because then you have to operate in chaos, and then to find yourself operating in chaos is completely insane to a point, but it's the only way I can work, and it's the only way I do work, and that's how I am, where it's like I find lanes, and then it's like when the lane opens and I have the hyper focus, that's when everything moves.
That's correct.
And it's like if a lane isn't moving, I just hop over into another one and move that up, and then come back to this, and it's just a constant motion.
And for me, I think of it like shuffling cards. You're always trying to put the hand together.
Yeah, it's nice meeting myself.
I'm sorry to hear that. I really am. I apologize.
They both spoke so highly of you.
I pay them well, both of them.
I didn't know what to expect, and those are my favorite podcasts going in. I knew a little bit about what you did through them, but I just kind of wanted to open the floor up.
Thank you. I appreciate the hell out of it. I do.
Yeah, no, it's been one of my favorites to hear what you do and to see how you operate, and then to understand the focus in and out and all that. It's pretty remarkable. I loved how you travel. I've always wanted to travel, and like for you to just throw that out there and do that, not a lot of people do. And it's been a pleasure to interview you.
My pleasure.
I was going to tell both of them as soon as this is over, I would do this every other month just to talk.
Oh, I'm
the
down
stories,
with it. Bro, I'm down with it.
It's like the jiu-jitsu guys when they tell their fight stories. I just sit back and I'm like, this is crazy.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
It is crazy. I mean, the bottom line is, bro, you go around one time.
Yeah.
And you got to make the most of it, honest to God, because you don't want to be at the end of it saying, shit, I wish I had.
Yeah, no, this has been one of my favorites.
Thank you.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to, well, I know you're not on social media, but if anybody would need any of your information, how would they get a hold of you to look into hiring you or to look for more information?
Thank you for that.
On the firm.
A gratuitous plug. We have a website. It's ekdefense.com. We're going to be launching a new website shortly. A nicer one, because the ekdefense.com is kind of old and dated, and it might actually work now. So it's Dowdle.legal, DOWDLE.legal, or ekdefense.com. Both will get you to the same spot. Even thuglaw.com. We can talk about that at some point too.
Yeah.
Thuglaw.com will get you to the same spot. But ultimately, just reach out. I mean, I don't charge anything to talk to people. I don't charge anything to visit people at the prison, that kind of thing, because again, it's a service industry, bro. It's not anything more than that.
Awesome. If you're a first-time listener for the show, it's neveragainstudio.com. That has all previous shows. It has the apparel. It has all the services that we offer. Anything we do is at neveragainstudio.com. Subscribe to the YouTube. I'm trying to build that up. I know you and Jesse are super tight, so do you have anything in closing?
I don't have
I love pushing it to him, because if I leave it on myself, I fumble. So I used to push it to him a lot, and then he started getting nasty, so I stopped. But I'm doing it this time.
Well done. Well done.
So you can close out the show since this is your friend.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Coming in.
You're very welcome, Jesse.
That's
it was
awkward, awkward as I wanted.
It was just like some of the guys that want to do vice work. I would like to purchase some drugs from you.
Yes.
Thank you for coming in.
I have this money.
So
can I get some of them drugs there?
Yeah.
Which ones? All of them, please?
I would like everything you have, please. And I have a $20 bill.
No, I have multiple sequentially numbered $20 bills. May I please have some? Yes.
Pay no attention to the man in the van.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
Did you close it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was cool. Thank you so
Yeah,
much.
of course, man. What rad story.
I believe it.